Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to echo the comments of my colleague, Congresswoman Cosmos, and I appear before the committee today to ask that you include sufficient funding for NASA to accomplish two specific missions. First, to fly the shuttle through fiscal year 2011, including at least two missions, one of which would be to launch the alpha magnetic spectrometer, and second, sufficient funding to continue the development of the Constellation program. The NASA proposal outlined by the administration several weeks ago is seriously lacking in vision and mission. It appears to have been developed on the fly with little coordination with public and private stakeholders. Just one glaring example is NASA's surprising decision to terminate the Constellation program. The Air Force last year indicated that Constellation's delay would adversely impact our military's solid rocket industrial motor base. One can only assume that the administration's proposal to cancel Constellation would be devastating for national security. NASA fails to fully understand, or at least obviously does not take into consideration, the much broader military, industrial, and economic implications of their proposals. It would be irresponsible for Congress to embrace this plan without further scrutiny. NASA was placed on hold last year as the Augustine Committee undertook a review of our nation's spaceflight program. The Augustine report made clear what many of us already knew. If America is to have a robust space exploration program, it must have a budget to match it. That, my friends, is the essential question before you and this Congress. Are we going to have a robust space program and continue down the path forged by John F. Kennedy, or are we going to return to the days of Sputnik when the United States took a back seat? Are we going to cede space to Russia and China? Apollo 7 astronaut Walter Cunningham said, "The administration's proposal accelerates America's downward spiral toward mediocrity in space exploration." Apollo 17 astronaut Harrison Schmitt said the plan would, and I quote, "cede the moon to China, the American space station to Russia, and assign liberty to the ages. Other nations would accrue the benefits, psychological, political, economic, and scientific, that the United States harvested as a consequence of Apollo's success 40 years ago. This lesson has not been lost on our ideological and economic competitors." End of quote. Will the future that this committee sets for our nation be bold, or will it be mediocre? Boldness demands a rejection of the administration's plan. Our space program has generated thousands of inventions and spin-offs that have been translated directly into the creation of tens of thousands of jobs right here in America that have contributed to our economic dominance. The administration makes two high-risk mistakes. Number one, they bet our nation's entire space program on yet unproven commercial vendors. While I hope that commercial vendors will one day be able to get us there, we should not bet the whole program on that unproven hope. Number two, the administration puts Russia in the driver's seat by relying solely on them to get our astronauts to the space station and back safely. According to the Augustine Committee and information I have received from NASA and contractors, the annual cost of flying the shuttle may cost up to $1 billion for 2 flights per year, much less than generally expected. For a budget equal to a fraction of 1% of the stimulus, we can extend the shuttle for another year or two and provide a smoother transition for thousands of Americans who rely on our space program for their well-being at a time when our unemployment rate is at its highest in 3 decades. Extending the shuttle through fiscal year 2011 is essential if we are to accommodate the launch of the alpha magnetic spectrometer, which may not be ready until the spring of 2011, several months beyond the administration's arbitrary December 31st, 2010 deadline for the last shuttle launch. Providing sufficient funding for Constellation will ensure that we do not abandon the investments already made. To that end, we should work to see that the space gap is minimized. Let's heed the words of space pioneer Gene Cernan, the last human to walk on the moon, who said just last week, "Now is the time for wiser heads in Congress to prevail. Now is the time to overrule mediocrity. Now is the time to be bold, innovative, and wise in deciding how we invest in the future of America." Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentleman for his comments that are well taken by this committee, and we appreciate it very much to be entered into the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.